In 2025, 93% of US companies are using AI, but most are still figuring out how to use it effectively. Only half of their teams are trained to leverage their full potential. For engineering teams, that gap shows up as missed efficiencies, repetitive coding, and slower delivery. At Maruti Techlabs, we are bridging that gap by actively using AI in our day-to-day engineering workflows. This is first part of our video series exploring how different departments across Maruti Techlabs are using AI. Today, we are diving into how our engineering team is putting AI to work, solving real problems and speeding up delivery. Let's move straight to the team. Hey Kushal, how's your workload today?
It's busy but manageable, thanks to some of the AI tools we have been experimenting with lately.
That's great to hear. Could you please tell our viewers which AI tool you are using and how?
Oh sure. Well, in the beginning, we tried out a few different ones to see which fit our workflows best. Some were okay for basic completions, but they didn't keep up when things got complex or needed more context. The one that's made a noticeable difference for us was GitHub Copilot. It's an AI-powered coding assistant that integrates into editors like Visual Studio. It provides innovative code suggestions, whether it's methods, business logics, unit tests, boilerplates, or quick snippets. To give you a better idea, let me walk you through some real situations where Copilot has proved its value. One way we use it is to automate repetitive and time-consuming tasks so that we can focus more on business logics, architecture, and innovations. Beyond suggesting code, it understands context across multiple files, can generate or modify entire files, and work based on simple prompts. Here are a few ways we have seen it deliver real impact. First, we had to deal with a scenario where similar pull requests or PRs were raised across multiple repositories. Reviewing each one manually would have taken hours. We had to deal with a scenario where similar pull requests or PRs were raised across multiple GitHub repositories. Reviewing each one manually would have taken days. With Copilot's help, we created a script that compares every PR with a reference one and automatically approves it if everything matches the structure, file names, and code. We even extended it to handle tagging and merging automatically, creating version tags, merging approved PRs, and skipping any if there are any conflicts. This alone saves us hours during the release cycle. Second, we needed to add 2 sample files across 25 different folders based on the folder name in one of our repositories, which is equivalent to adding 50 different files. Usually, that would mean a lot of manual work. Instead, we used GitHub Copilot to generate a Python script that handled all of it in one go. Another area where Copilot helps us in pair programming and real-time code completion, especially when you are working with a new language or code base. It feels like having a second brain that helps with brainstorming logic, refactoring code, and reducing context switching, so you don't have to jump between your browser and your editor. Let me give you a quick example to illustrate what I mean. First, we had to recreate a complex Tableau graph, this time using Python. We didn't have access to Tableau, and doing it from scratch in Python would have been painful. But Copilot guided us through it with proper syntax and logic. We got a working version in under an hour. As .NET developers, we don't usually work with Python or Node.js, but using Copilot, we just described the task in a chat window and it generated the whole Python function logic, no endless searching. And the second one, we use Copilot's agent mode alongside an OpenAPI documentation and some logic nodes. It generated approximately 70 to 75% of our implementation for a new API, encompassing all necessary files and flow structure. That lets us focus on refining the details instead of building everything from scratch. That's how I've been using Copilot to make my tasks more efficient. But I'm not the only one. Rutvika from my team has also been putting it to good use in her day-to-day work.
Thanks Kushal. Let's take a look at how Rutvika has been using Copilot in her day-to-day work. Hi Rutvika.
Hi Renu.
Can you please walk us through how you are using Copilot?
So in my day-to-day work as a developer, GitHub Copilot has been especially helpful in 2 main areas: writing unit tests and debugging tricky front-end issues. Let's start with unit testing. Earlier, setting up unit tests manually meant writing the test logic from scratch, creating mock datas, configuring dependencies, and thinking through all the possible edge cases one by one. It was a repetitive, error-prone process, and when you are working on a tight deadline, it slows everything down. Copilot has streamlined that for us. Now, if I want to test how a method behaves when a specific field is missing, I just describe the scenario in a comment, and Copilot suggests the entire test method with mocks, setup, and assertions included. It handles the structure, which means we can focus more on test coverage and edge cases. It also helped us spot edge cases we might have missed. We now use it as part of our regular TDD. which stands for test-driven development, and it allows newer devs to onboard faster and keep our test logic more consistent across the team. Now switching to front-end. Browser-specific issues used to be particularly frustrating. Something would work fine in Chrome but break in Firefox or Safari, and it often took hours to trial and error to pinpoint what was going wrong. You'd scroll through dev forms, tweak CSS, and reload over and over again. In one instance, we spent a lot of time debugging an issues that wouldn't even reproduce consistently. We used Copilot to review the code, and it suggested a few likely causes. One of those led us straight to the root problem, and that saved us hours. So Copilot doesn't just help us debug, it allows us to write cleaner code, avoid repetitive tasks, and spend less time bouncing between documentation and browser tabs. It's made our front-end and back-end teams way more productive and unblocked.
That's a great overview, Rutvika. Thank you for walking us through those use cases.
So across the board, whether it's generating unit tests, debugging tricky front-end issues, or handling back-end logic, GitHub Copilot has become more than just a coding assistant. It's helping our engineers focus on higher level thinking by taking care of repetitive, time-consuming parts of software development. We are moving faster, writing cleaner code, and solving problems more confidently, even when we are working with unfamiliar tools or tight deadlines. And what's exciting is that this isn't just limited to engineering. In the next part of this series, we will talk to our QA team to see how they are using AI to accelerate test planning, automate repetitive tasks, and improve overall software quality. At Maruti Techlabs, we are not just experimenting with AI, we are embedding it into our work processes across every department.